Hello and welcome back to my Safety Hub. I'm Awkward Fourie, and today we'll be delving into an important topic essential to the success of a health and safety program, namely the health and safety risk assessment. In today's video, we'll be exploring the basics with regards to health and safety risk assessment. However, more content will be released in the future, so please hit the subscribe button so you can stay up to date with any new content that will be released on this channel. Before we continue, I'd like to thank Safety Wallet for their continued support, as well as for sponsoring today's video via the P system. As per the Occupational Health and Safety Act, all employers are required to provide a safe workplace for all parties involved. This not only includes your employees, but any contractors and visitors that may enter the site as well, so that we can protect them from harm against any of the operations that you're carrying out on a daily basis. So the first question is, why is a health and safety risk assessment important? And how can it benefit your business in making sure that all risks are looked after? The answer to this is multifaceted. First of all, a well-executed risk assessment will identify all the prevalent hazards that are on the site. In addition to this, it will also identify all the risks associated to those hazards. Further, it will identify all the control measures necessary to control those risks. Once control measures have been identified, you're in a position where you can empower your employees by educating them on those control measures, risks and hazards, so that they're able to protect themselves while performing work and tasks. Next, a health and safety risk assessment will show your dedication towards your employees' well-being, and therefore it will minimize the occurrence of any incidents and accidents that may occur due to the exposure to these hazards and risks. Next, let's have a look at the process of conducting a risk assessment itself. In the olden days, the risk assessment itself was never a legislated requirement. As such, as it became a legislated requirement, often it is viewed as a paper exercise, something that gets stored in a file on a shelf and isn't necessarily looked at as something that can be applied to change the behavior of employees and employers alike. With this being said, let's quickly cover the three main steps involved in conducting a risk assessment. Firstly, the hazard identification. There are multiple ways to do hazard identification, but one of the main items is by doing an audit or an inspection of the workplace. Secondly is the assessment or the quantification of risks associated to those hazards that have been identified. For this, you would need a risk assessment methodology to do it as accurately as possible. Lastly is the selection and development of control measures to effectively control those risks that have been identified so that we can mitigate them in the future. A risk assessment is the foundation for creating the policies, procedures and practices needed, or call it a health and safety management system, to effectively put into place or implement a risk-controlled work environment. On the topic of policies, procedures and practices, I'd like to thank Safety Wallet for making today's video content possible. Today's content is sponsored by their P system. The Safety Wallet Policies, Procedures and Practices Health and Safety Management System is a proactive approach that aims to establish, implement and maintain a safe work environment. It emphasizes the company's commitment, which are the policies, the steps to fulfill this commitment, namely the procedures, as well as the daily implementation of these steps, namely the practices. The power of the P system lies in its comprehensive approach, fostering a sense of accountability and safety consciousness among employees. To find out more about Safety Wallet, please visit www.safetywallet.co.za. So, what is the role of company leadership when it comes to the implementation or creation of a health and safety risk assessment? We've covered the fact that the Occupational Health and Safety Act requires an employer to provide a workplace that is safe and free from risk. And we understand that it's not always possible to have a completely risk-free workplace. However, we can strive towards that goal. With that being said, we also have to understand that it's not only the employer's responsibility to make sure that the risk assessment is completed and adhered to as per the tasks that have been analyzed and the control measures that have been put into place. Employees also have a role to play in this regard. Therefore, we can not only pay attention towards legislation and what the law is asking us to do, but we should rather lean more towards what we need to do in terms of fostering a culture of health and safety. Therefore, taking a more collaborative approach towards completing and implementing a health and safety risk assessment. A key aspect to keep in mind when it comes to conducting a risk assessment or continuously evaluating risks is that risk itself is continuously evolving. Every single day poses new risks or different levels of risks. And the reason for this is we work with people most of the time. Also, technology changes, work environments change, the conditions outside the building may change. And this means that the levels of risk on a daily basis, even on an hourly basis, may move up or down as we adhere to or ignore the control measures that have been put into place according to the risk assessment that has been conducted. Never ever should a risk assessment be completed and be shelved with the assumption that the risk will remain static and therefore be controlled at all times. As we all understand, the Occupational Health and Safety Act also requires employers to empower or communicate to their employees any hazards or risks that may exist in the workplace, but further to this, to also assist them to understanding these hazards and risks and the control measures associated to them so that they may better manage them. Now, this requires that risk assessment training, along with other forms of education such as toolbox talks, SOP training, induction training, and formal on-the-job training, be conducted with employees so that they can understand the hazards and risks that have been identified, along with the control measures to control those risks as they perform the work they need to do. We also have to keep in mind that every step of the risk assessment process needs to be communicated with the employees related to the tasks that are being analyzed. The reason for this is that the risk assessor doesn't necessarily understand the task at hand, as well as the person that's actually performing the work. This again brings about the reason for fostering an atmosphere for collaboration, making sure that your risk assessment is as accurate as possible. Involving your employees in the risk assessment process therefore bridges the gap between safety protocols or policies and the understanding of what is being analyzed and what should be carried out on a daily basis. Once again, referring back to policies, procedures, and practices within your health and safety management system. In conclusion, I'd like to end today's session by reminding you that conducting a risk assessment isn't simply just a paper exercise. It requires leadership commitment, training, empowerment, and creating an environment that fosters collaboration. If we look after these aspects, we should be moving closer towards creating a safe work environment for all. Today's recording looked at the very basics of a risk assessment and what is required to be conducted or looked after for a risk assessment in the workplace. More in-depth video content will be released in the future. So please hit the subscribe button so that you can receive any updates for new information that will be released on this platform. Also leave a comment below if you'd like to engage with us in the future. Again, we would like to thank Safety Wallet and their P system for making the video content of today possible. Please engage with them at www.safetywallet.co.za. And as always, stay safe, stay inspired, and until next time, take care.